So we have some big news regarding Brian Thomas Jr., or potentially what could happen to him. It's seen on screen right now by Diana Rossini and a few others I've seen posted it. It says the Jaguars are listening to calls on Brian Thomas Jr., even if the move feels highly unlikely. They're also shopping for defense. And again, just listening to offers, not 100% he's going to get moved, but the fact that they are still listening to it is certainly interesting. And I know Brian Thomas Jr. has had a huge sophomore slump. He's not looked like the guy he was in his rookie season, even though he is still the leading receiver for Jacksonville. When you look down the list with Tim Patrick, when you look at Parker Washington with Travis Hunter, he's still the leading receiver, though he has questions with his catching ability, certainly his catch percentage as well as the drops he's had. You look at PFF, when I go to his stats right here, they have him at 6 drops. I've seen the score. When I look at their rating or their stats, they have him at 9 drops. So again, somewhere around the range. Who knows what the exact amount is? I have to look a little more into that. But between 6 and 9 drops, which is still a huge worrisome, regardless for what number you want to pick at for Brian Thomas. Even though he's still up there for pass snaps, he's ranked 7th in the league for that. Routes ran 7th in that one. Targets 11th. He's still up there with everything else in terms of just having the opportunity to be out there and get and make the plays. But look at he's 30th in receptions. He's 27th in receiving yards. 44th in receiving touchdowns with only 1 so far, compared to the 12 he had last year. I'm going to show that real quick here. 10 he had last year. And again, it's a huge concern, no doubt about that. And I understand for Jacksonville fans or anyone in general that they are a little bit worried about Brian Thomas Jr. I don't want to make this as an excuse for him, but you look at a lot of the other guys outside of really Roman Dunze that have certainly question marks still with them or have taken a step back last year, especially if you look at Ladd McConkey. Marvin Harrison is still up and down. People are still worried about him because of just more so the hype coming out of the draft as well. You look at Keon Coleman, where a second round pick, of course, but you look at he had a great start to the season, over 100 yards receiving week 1, and has faded out since then. And you look at Xavier Worthy, who's been hurt, but you see the flashes still, but again, not putting up the numbers that maybe you expect him to in that offense, especially given the opportunity he was given with Rashee Rice being out. Maybe it's a higher volume once he's there, or once he's as the season goes on with Rashee Rice. But again, you look all across the board, there is some slump for a lot of the receivers in that draft class, but still don't want to make an excuse on again the catch percentage and the drops. You look on the screen here, especially for the receiving stats, the reception percentage has dropped down from 55.6 to 41.8. And again, he's not producing at the rate that he should be. I, again, don't want to make an excuse 100% for Brian Thomas he has no blame in this, but you look at as well that I had question marks with Trevor Lawrence and how the offense has been at times. Even though they were 3-1 at one point, there were still concerns with Trevor Lawrence early on. Just the turnovers, he's gotten a little bit better, but they've dropped 2 straight. And again, I get somewhat of the panic of maybe want to move off of Brian Thomas Jr., but I think it's very premature. Outside of him, outside really, Travis Hunter, there's not really a huge room of wide receivers they have, at least posted on ESPN. You have De'Ami Brown, Travis Hunter, Tim Patrick, Thomas Jr., of course, and Parker Washington. Of course, you have tight ends as well, no doubt about that. You have Johnny Munitz, you have Quentin Morris, Hunter Long, and Strange as well, of course. But I think it's very premature, even with just listening to offers. I think it doesn't hurt to listen to what people offer you, what's on the table. But again, I still think that it is a little puzzling to me, at least, that, again, once again, what I keep saying, even with the struggles, I understand they are valid to what people are saying, but I still think it is a little premature to immediately shop him. When you have a few more years left with him under his rookie contract, you see it, look on the screen right here, he's making $3.3 million this year, and you have 2 more years left in the contract. And next year in 2026, you have to decide if you're going to pick up the 5th-year option, but still you are at least guaranteed 2 more years with them. And I think it's very premature. I think it's a little bit too panicky to just, to even listen to offers for this one, given, again, the wide receiving room is very small at this point. Even with Travis Hunter, who is still mostly playing, wide receiver, it's just, again, this is someone that is still somewhat split on both sides of the ball. Again, I know majority of the time he is still playing wide receiver, but again, I think the whole point of bringing Travis Hunter in was having a running mate with Brian Thomas, and that's at least how I looked at it. I thought it was a great pairing, a great duo. How, if you want to say, compare it as with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, something like that nature there. You want to build off of what Brian Thomas Jr. did in his rookie season, a fantastic rookie season, and bring someone who we believe is versatile, who they traded up one spot to get in Travis Hunter, who gave up a first round pick going into this upcoming draft. And again, I think the whole point was having a running mate with Thomas Jr. and having more weapons for Trevor Lawrence. And it just seems so redundant that they're even listening. Again, dare I say, even if they do make the move, even if they do get a defensive help on that side, they get defensive players along with picks as well, potentially. It still, to me, is a little puzzling that you would still take away a weapon for Trevor Lawrence going to this one, again, regardless of all the liabilities, if you want to say the drops and so forth, the catching, his catch worries. But again, I think that, this to me isn't the best move possible. I think they should stay put with Brian Thomas Jr. along with Travis Hunter and try and work things out. If it prolongs for the rest of the season, or dare I say going into the third year, there is still concerns. I think then you should have then it's good enough to have the conversation at the very least. But to try and potentially move him maybe before the trade deadline, which is coming up relatively soon, I wouldn't do that. I'm sorry, I wouldn't. Again, I understand the concerns, the problems, but he's still a great player. He's still a first-round pick. I know he's not part of this regime, that the new regime that is in place, at least for the GM side. I get he's not his pick, but again, the guy's still talented. And I'm sure there will be plenty of offers on there. I've seen on social media, especially, again, being a Bills fan, people are going crazy for him because that was someone that we wanted. That's someone we wanted to go after. And people are already throwing out their second-round picks, first-round picks, potentially, players. And I'm sure it's probably happening all across the board there. So maybe the Giants are looking at, hey, having his teammate, once again, alongside Malik Neighbors, that could be a great side of things. You look at other teams as well, our fan bases I've seen that are throwing it out there. So certainly he is highly touted, whether it's for they're just not seeing as in depth as a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, seeing snap in and snap out, game in and game out of what he's producing. Not just for that, but I've also seen people talk about just maybe at times the lack of effort or how he's played at outside of just again actually making plays on the field, but just everything, all the little things outside of that too. Again, whether it's true or not, I have not watched every single snap of Brian Thomas Jr. Just going off of what some people have said as well, whether they're Jacksonville fans or not, just what I've seen posted on there on social media. But again, he's still a highly touted player. He was a first-round pick, and I think he deserved that, and he showed that in his rookie season. And now you sit there wondering which is the fluke. Is the rookie season the fluke, or is this season his, certainly a sophomore slump, is that the fluke with this one? But again, I don't think, again, personally for me, if I had to put in my perspective as a Jacksonville fan, if I was one, that you shouldn't let him go. At least in my opinion, I don't think you should let Brian Thomas Jr. go. Let things play out. Let things work out still on the offensive side. I get it's frustrating, but again, the whole point of bringing Travis Hunter in wasn't to be the number one wide receiver. I think it was to have a great pairing alongside each other. Maybe Travis Hunter eventually becomes the number one guy because of him just being better than Brian Thomas. But again, I think that you really hit the home run last year, and what he offered you definitely surprised. And no doubt before going to the season, if you did a redraft, he'd probably go much higher than what he did at where he was picked originally. But again, the guy's still highly touted out there. He's still a great player. He still brings great attributes to the team. Don't give up on him. I understand it's very frustrating. Like I keep saying over and over again, I know it's very frustrating because he's having a slow start to the year. Not that impressive compared to his rookie season. Again, when I go back to the ESPN stats for projected stats, he's gonna be well below 1,000 yards, 886 and 2 touchdowns. I get that's very disappointing. And if it was, yes, I at the end of the year, if it did come down to that, yes, I would be in the camp of worried. I'd be, in the camp of concern because it's such a huge drop off of what he did his first year. But again, I think you should let things play out the way, for the rest of the year, see how things work out. And who knows, maybe in a week or two, maybe next game, he pops off and he has a great stretch where we kind of we sit back and we kind of reminisce on the crazy scenario of, I can't believe Jacksonville almost thought about getting rid of him. But again, I would like to have things play out. Again, the trade deadline is is approaching relatively soon. Don't make a dumb move at this one. Don't make something that just a hash or a rush decision at this point. Let it play out, and that's probably what ultimately it's going to be. Again, it's not 100% guarantee what the reports say that they are going to trade Brian Thomas. It's just they are listening to offers, and I know it doesn't hurt to listen out there, like I said in the beginning of the video. But again, don't make a hash decision. Don't rush this. Let it play out for the rest of the year. And if you still have concerns, you have the off season, or did I say you have next trade deadline if you want to move them. But we'll see how things play out. We'll see how potentially what the offers come out to be if it does get reported. What it's going to be, second round pick, first round pick, or players involved with this one.